Let me get this picture up here. There we go. Yep. The Chinese on the moon. What do y'all think about that, folks? Good evening from Boise, Idaho. Scott, good to hear
Not
you,
just
man.
on the moon, on the dark side of the moon.
On the dark side of the moon. Pretty incredible accomplishment. You know, there's, what is that? That makes them only the third nation on this Earth. Or maybe India. Did India maybe make a landing there? I know they have maybe something in orbit, but I think China might be only the third.
Sure.
Yeah, they're probably the third ones to ever get there. Impressive task. Now, they did have another rover that they landed on the moon a couple years back. It was like the Jade Rabbit or something like that. And it did okay for about 50 feet. And then they pretty much stopped talking about it. So we assumed that there was some kind of a malfunction. Chinese are usually fairly tight-lipped about these things. A lot like the Russians were back in the space race. Oh, 22.
It was interesting about this one, just why they picked it, because they're trying to go for that plant life. That was the whole reason for going there. They picked that crater because of the impact and the level of the geology, so they could do all that stuff. It was interesting.
It's strange. The landscape is strange. They did have a success and a failure, but I call it a success, and we'll pull that up here in a second. But they were able to actually grow something on the moon, which is the first time in our known history that anybody has been able to do that. And I have a picture of that here. Let's see, Jamaica Dog, greetings from an undisclosed location deep in the heart of a beach in NC. Jamaica Dog, enjoyed another one of those fine cigars I got from you the other day. Thank you again for that. That was really nice. Mayhem RV, are there still pirate radio stations? Yes. In fact, you're listening to one right now because we are broadcasting right now live on 1670 here in the mountains, North Carolina. So yeah, there's pirate radio. You can go on eBay and get yourself an AM or FM transmitter. Get yourself a microphone just like this fancy one right here and get on the air. That's all there is to it, my friends. 741 saying, impressive accomplishment for the Chinese. USA is ramping up for manned missions to the moon in the next few years. I wish they would hurry up. Yeah, and you know what? I'm very happy the Chinese got to the moon, and I hope that that is that push to say, whoa, wait a minute. You know, the second or third largest military in the world and the economic powerhouse that China has unfortunately become is now on the moon. So maybe it's time for us to pull our collective heads out of our collective you-know-whats and get back there ourselves before somebody finds something worth keeping. So let me go ahead and close out that picture, and we'll take a look at the lander. There it is, a little booger right there. Doesn't look like a very nice place to live, does it?
No, it does not.
Yeah, I mean, rocks, dust. Always weird.
But I gotta say, Eric, there's no stars out there, so this must be a hoax too.
Well, and there's, the theories are out there that this is a fake landing. And with the Chinese, anything's possible. It could be that it's a fake. I don't know. I'm certainly not opposed to the idea that maybe they blew it up and, it didn't work very well at all, and this is just a soundstage. Obviously, with the way that digital editing is nowadays, you can't tell reality from fakes, so this could very well be. But I'm going to go ahead on the premise that this is real. It is weird that stars don't show up. I'm sure there's some kind of scientific explanation for that. However, I don't remember it off the top of my head.
There is. No, I would not assume this was fake at all. I was just taking a jab.
Jamaica Dog's chiming in. Bet they are talking to China on a Baofeng radio. Yeah. So, Jason, you're not a huge ham fanatic or CB fanatic like I am, but Baofeng is like the Chinese version of a ham radio, and it's probably, they flooded the market a few years back. These things are $20 or $30, so just about everybody has one. It's
funny you mentioned that, Jamaica Dog, because they are out there with no communication because it doesn't turn, it doesn't happen. So
yeah, it's out there blocked from. I wonder, how are they doing that? What, they must have a satellite in orbit around the moon that's relaying that information?
They've got relay stations on the surface, but they're still out there in spots where they can't talk.
Crazy, man. Pretty crazy. Michael Sean's checking in from Texas. Hey, man, there we go. 3/4 of the way across the country. All that on a little teeny-weeny pirate radio and a YouTube channel named The Midnight Cafe. Mayhem RV says, I have seen a lot of your radio videos on the Farpoint Farm channel. Yeah, man, I do tons of ham and CB and even some pirate radio stuff. And it's, it's a passion of mine. It obviously is. As is this kind of stuff. Jason and I got started in pirate radio back in 99. Started broadcasting a show. Obviously, we were a little bit younger. I don't recall having that gray right there, but I will say that the two of us had fun then, and I hope, Jason, I know I am. I hope you're having fun now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. All right, well, let's close out the lander picture here. We'll go ahead and get rid of that one, and I'm just going to show this. This is one of the pictures snapped by this thing, and again, not a very hospitable looking place. It almost looks to me, though, isn't it? It almost looks like it's wet. I don't know. I'm sure it's just the way the picture's taken, but you have the rocks and the sand or the dust or whatever it is looks awfully wet to me. But
it does. It looks compacted. Like some mud or something.
crazy. And it's really weird to see this because, you know, you wonder, we 50 years ago were there, man, on the moon, and we grabbed a couple of those rocks and brought them back, and now they are some of the most valuable pieces of anything on the whole planet. You know, a piece of moon rock goes for millions and millions of dollars because there's just, I think, what was it, 50 some odd pounds they brought back. So that's until somebody goes there and gets more. That's all we got. Yeah, pretty wild, man. Pretty wild. Let me go ahead and close that out. And here is the picture that I really wanted to talk about, and that's this. Doesn't look like much, does it? Jamaica Dog saying next Saturday he's going to take his ham test. Good luck, Mr. Dog. You'll define. The general is a little tougher, but you base, if you're just taking your first test and you've got the book and you've read it and studied it, I'm sure you'll do fine on that, my friend. It's when you get into the higher classes that maybe it gets a little bit crazy. Anyway, back to this picture. I'm looking at this thing and I'm thinking, that is actually a sprout right there. You're looking at a picture of something that sprouted in the moon's soil, I believe. So it sprouted, it lived, it started. Unfortunately, what ended up happening is the little unit had no heater. So unfortunately, at the 50 degrees Celsius below that it is on the dark side of the moon, it didn't last for very long. Once the environmental controls brought it down to that temperature, it was pretty well over. I think I may have lost Jason. Are you still there, buddy?
No, I'm right here. I'm right. Yeah.
You got real quiet there for a second. Your thoughts on that?
Production mic.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. So the potential is there, obviously. When you say, I mean, if we were to build a lunar base and we obviously had heat and we maybe made it on the bright side of the moon, we could grow food.
That's a great sign that it's there. I mean, it sprouted. It has to live to sprout. So they have proved it.
Amazing. So anyway, that's big news. And I don't care, you know, I'm not a fan of China at all. I'm absolutely not a fan of China, but I have to congratulate them on not only a successful flight all the way out there because it's big business, but doing this little experiment. That's got to be right up there in history books as far as we know. That's the only time that's ever happened. So congratulations to them, and I'll go ahead and close that out. And from there, let's move on into farther deep space. Hold on, let me see here. Mayhem RV is selling Jamaica. Good luck. You've been a ham for 20 years or so. Good deal, my friend. I think I got my ham license in 89. So, yeah, long time. But ham's gone through a lot of changes, ups and downs, a lot like CB, ups and downs, ups and downs. Ham has probably got a more diehard following than CB radio. For some reason, CB's always been where my heart is, but it's just weird. I'm just weird. Also, well, I don't know. I know what it is. I'm poor. That's what the problem is. Anyway, we move on, taking a trip from the moon all the way to Mars, and we take a look at this picture, which I can't blow it up any bigger than that. Well, I don't know. Hold on a second here. Let me see. Maybe I can make this bigger. Yeah, I'll make it as big as I can. Here's some of the many ships that have come out and made it all the way to Mars. Most of these did not blow up on impact, which was kind of nice. But dating back to the Vikings way back in the 70s and now. But here's, I think, like 1964, the Mariner 3, Mariner 4. It's just, this is what we've sent. And if you look at it, you think, wow, that's a lot of ships. And then you think about 50 years, well, from 64, right? So I don't know. Yeah. Maybe it's just me. Why aren't we on the moon, man? Why aren't we on Mars? If we can send that many ships there, and probably about 2/3 of them make it there successfully, seems like we ought to have.
Well, it probably comes down to our mindset with that because they didn't air the last 2 Apollo missions because the public didn't care. So
yeah,
they're not
money.
That's kind of money and where it's allocated.
Yeah, I think you're right. Well, we talked about this last week, where we talked about we talked about deep sea exploration, and that was pretty much what we came up with. That was that okay? You've got deep sea exploration, but why would we want to search for it if there's no money to be made? And apparently that's the feeling from Mars. The technology to get out there is super expensive, and once we get there, what good is it? How can we exploit it? Because our country, and pretty much every country, is all about exploitation of whatever we find, whether it be a natural resource or whatnot.
Well, that's why I double back you on that comment. Hats off to China for this one, because America would not have flown all the way out there to plant a plant.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Jamaica Dogs, one of those find some of Nancy Pelosi's family. I don't know. She's a strange gal, isn't she? She had an interesting week. We could I might remind me of Nancy Pelosi later on. I wasn't going to cover it, but it is kind of a funny story about her this week. Anyway, here's another picture up here I've pulled up. That's a picture of the Martian landscape, and again, not a very happy looking place, is it?
Well, yeah, it kind of looks more like the beach than the moon. I think I'd rather go there.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's warmer than the moon. That's for
A
sure.
little bit, yeah.
I think at the equator it gets up to almost like 50 degrees during the daytime, but it still gets really cold at night. But yeah, these little rovers have really exceeded expectations. I think those rovers that they sent out there years ago, they were supposed to last like a week or a month, and that they're out there like 5 years later still trucking. So that's really cool. Good for them. Finally, something we built well. That's always nice. Let's see here. What else we got? I think that pretty much wraps it up. Landscape there. Yeah.
We could even go into that part you were talking about how many ships there.
Yeah.
You're going to talk about Art Bell later, and you tie all that together. They swear we're already there. So
Yeah, and conspiracy theory wise, geez, how about that? I don't know if you remember this one, but last year, Google has mapped the Martian surface from space, just like they have Google Earth. Obviously, the image resolution is not the same as it is for Google Earth because we don't have land photos. But so for whatever reason, I guess they thought it'd be funny, but instead it kind of stirred up quite a confrontation or conversation. They put an image of a base on Mars. I mean, with solar and the works. And are you familiar with this?
I've not heard that, but they do that willingly as a joke.
They say it was a joke. So somebody was going through the Mars archives, the Google Mars, and they're going through all that mess, and they come across this base, and they think, my God, they found something pretty impressive. And depending on who you want to believe or what you want to believe, they may have found something very impressive. But Google immediately came out and said it was a hoax, it was a joke. Which leads you to two questions, right? If it's a joke, it's not a very good one, and
No.
if it's not a joke, it's impressive. We apparently have a very large installation already on Mars. With the amount of Black Ops money that the government has, it's entirely possible that they're
Why
doing
would such a
something.
big company risk their reputation for a joke like that? That
Well,
seems a little ridiculous.
Yeah, that was my thought, and that was a lot of people's thought. The other thing is, if you've altered that terrain, that map, to show a fake base, if that's what they want us to believe, then what else have you altered? What are you hiding?
Yeah.
We talked about years ago the face of Mars, which it turns out, Richard Hoagland talked about for years, but it turns out that was not really the case. It was just an image artifact, but there could be other stuff on the planet that they're hiding from us, and because they've taken the opportunity to fake or alter a photograph and then get caught with it and say, well, yeah, we were doing it on purpose, it does make you wonder about the rest.
Yeah, it really does. I was not aware of that.
Yeah, it's an interesting something you'll have to check into. Just Google the base on Mars when we're done here tonight. It's pretty impressive for a fake, but who knows? I don't know. Anyway, yeah. On to that. Let's since we're getting goofy here and talking about weird stuff, I guess we can go on to some Art Bell here. And again, guys, the lines are open. If anybody wants to call in and just talk, we don't have to talk about what we're talking about. We can talk about whatever you want to talk about, because that is what the Midnight Cafe is really all about. We just kind of do our own thing. I picked out a few things of interest to me this week, and Rock and Woody did the same. But the Midnight Cafe call-in show is an open line show. It's all about talking about whatever. You want to talk radios, you want to talk UFOs, you want to talk politics. I hate talking politics, but I'm really, really knowledgeable about it, so go for it. The lines are open, live. Call in the Midnight Cafe.